Now to day 7 of the government shutdown, House Speaker Mike Johnson says he spoke with President Trump at length yesterday and that Trump wants to, quote, solve the problem. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer seems to be on board, saying the president needs to be more involved. He even called Speaker Johnson a massive roadblock in the negotiations. At the same time, Trump was asked about the shutdown during his White House meeting with Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney today and whether he thinks furloughed workers actually deserve back pay.
The Democrats have put a lot of people in great risk and jeopardy, but it really depends on who you're talking about. But for the most part, we're going to take care of our people. There are some people that really don't deserve to be taken care of, and we'll take care of them in a different way.
Joining me now, Republican Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis of New York. So, Congresswoman, you just heard the president there. Since I have you, I want to get your feelings about Trump saying what he did about back pay for furloughed government workers. What do you think? Should every furloughed worker get back pay?
Well, hopefully we're going to get this resolved before October 15th. That is when you will see the majority of these workers and our military men and women not receive their paychecks. I'm still hopeful that this can be resolved within the next few days. I think it's important for people to understand that the bill that we did pass out of the House was the negotiated bill. We passed this bill, which Chuck Schumer himself negotiated back in 2024. He voted for it, and the Senate Democrats joined with Republicans to extend it 3 consecutive times. So this already is the negotiated funding levels. And that is why it's so perplexing that Chuck Schumer and his colleagues in the Senate would actually vote to shut down the government over something that they previously supported 4 times. If the tables were turned and Republicans were trying to implement unrelated policy into a clean funding extension, I don't know what the media or what anybody else would be saying, but I imagine they'd be very critical. And so the best thing to happen at this moment is for the Senate Democrats to give the 7 votes needed so we can reach the 60 in the Senate, pass this clean extension, and then we should certainly address some of the issues that they brought up, which, by the way, I share some concerns as well. And there are other Republicans in the House that do share concerns, particularly about the inaffordability of the Affordable Care Act. And we have to address that issue, but we should not be shutting down the government, and we should not be putting these employees and our military in a position where they have to live paycheck to paycheck and now have to choose between, let's say, medication, rent, and food for their families.
All right. So President Trump has been making blue states like yours pay for this shutdown. You helped get him to roll back cuts to NYPD counterterrorism funding. Are you planning to talk to him now about the massive cuts for transit projects?
The NYPD funding that was cut, it was a proposed cut by the Department of Homeland Security because that department chose to change the formula for which those grants were being issued. It was unrelated to the shutdown. However, we did intervene. We did notify the president because this was critical, $187 million in counterterrorism to New York State alone. And the city, NYPD, #1 target in the country, was going to lose roughly $100 million. I'm glad that after I reached out to President Trump, right away, he worked on it and was willing and did reverse the decision of the Department of Homeland Security. It was a misguided decision by that department. And I think it's a warning to these agencies that they need to be more thoughtful when they're coming up with how they're distributing these funds. As it relates to other funding, my hope is that Chuck Schumer will end this shutdown. We don't want to see those infrastructure funds held here in New York. I did vote, and again, this is another example of where I've been bipartisan, voting for that infrastructure package that helped deliver that funding for the Gateway Tunnel, for example. But again, this is a result of the Schumer shutdown. Once Chuck Schumer delivers those votes to reopen government, that money will continue to flow. Things are going to, over the next few days, you're going to see more delays at our airports because of TSA staffing issues. You're going to see the WIC program, Women, Infant, and Children Nutrition Program. That money is going to run out, and that's going to lead to, in my state alone, about 500,000 mothers and their children that will not have access to that important nutrition and food program. We are going to see a lot of other consequences, sadly, as a result of this shutdown, which is why I say, Senator Schumer and the Democrats, just vote the same bill you voted for 4 times. Let's open up this government and let's not cause any more pain on the American people.
All right, you ran for mayor of New York 8 years ago. Who are you supporting in this year's race with Mamdani, Cuomo, and Sliwa?
Anybody but Mamdani, but I have endorsed Curtis Sliwa. I think that he's the one person who has not contributed to the demise of New York City. Look, he's never been in elected office, but he has decades of experience serving our city. He was the founder of the Guardian Angels because he cares about public safety. He knows our transit system inside and out, has helped transition mentally ill and homeless off our streets. He is somebody who's visited every housing project in our city. He is a real, true New Yorker who loves this city, and I think will do a great job. And he's not like the others who have, in one way or another, contributed to the decline of our city with reckless policies. By far, Mamdani is the worst choice possible because he has not only has he quoted Karl Marx, the Communist Playbook of wanting to seize the means of production, but what I'll say is in terms of public safety, somebody who wants to legalize prostitution, he wants to abolish ICE, he says that NYPD is the biggest threat to public safety. He doesn't believe there's a purpose for jails in our society. That is very, very extreme and dangerous. So Curtis is my first choice. Would certainly take Cuomo over Mamdani, but I hope people just reject Mamdani at the ballot box because he will hurt our city. He'll drive people out. He'll drive businesses in our tax base out that we desperately need to keep this city running. It is the economic engine of the country. So whatever happens here in New York City has an effect on the entire nation.
Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis, appreciate your time today, Congresswoman.